Amazon has a lot of fees. Every single seller knows this. Some of them are a little bit easier to calculate, such as your referral fee, which most people know is going to be roughly 15% of the sale, depends on your category, but other ones are a little bit sneakier. One of the more sneaky ones that's really hard to actually calculate is your low inventory fee. Now, this is a fee that Amazon released earlier this year in 2024, and it's not exactly apparent to most people how it's calculated, how they can avoid it, what actually makes a product exempt from this fee as well, and where to actually look to see if they're going to have this fee. So let's dig in and see exactly how you're supposed to calculate this and know if you're actually going to be hit by this fee at some point. So digging into Seller Central here, we'll be over in the FBA inventory tab where we can start looking at some of the products. Now, for these products, you can see a few different things. We'll see our low inventory level here. We will also see our sell through. This is going to be important here in a bit in the last 90 days. We can see our inventory health status and recommendations, our inbound quantity, our reserve quantity, and our available quantity. So let's start off by talking about our inventory health status and recommendations. You can see here we have a few things. We have on hand recommendation, and then what our recommended minimum levels are. For this exact product, you can see we have excess at the moment. Now, the on hand and the available are two different numbers. The reason for this is that you can see over here we have FC processing and FC transfer. FC transfer is going to be considered a part of our on hand inventory. This because it is technically in the hands of Amazon, but is not necessarily available at all times. Whereas FC processing is not going to be considered available or on hand until it is fully processed. Now, same goes for inbound quantity. Typically, when things are in the receiving aspect of things, you should see them during the FC process or FC transfer. Same thing with shipped. This will not affect either the available or the on hand when it is in the shipped aspect. So, these are some things you should keep in mind when trying to accurately understand how much inventory you actually have and whether or not you are going to be applied for this low inventory. Now, again, you can see we're in the excess stage here as well as the healthy stage here and the out of stock stage here. So the only typical products that are going to be applied for this are going to have the inventory health status of low stock. So we can see, let's click on our low stock, and now you can see we have several products in this range that all have low stock. You can see for the most part, this is just going to be a range of different products, usually where the on hand is below the recommended minimum levels. But on the other hand, you can also see for a lot of these products under the low inventory level fee, we are exempted. Now, there are several reasons you might be exempted for low inventory level fee. The first being non-standard size products. Essentially, if you are small and light product or even a large product, yes, you will be exempt from this fee. If you're a new seller in your first year, you will be exempt from this, so do not be afraid to launch a new product on the platform and run out of stock too quickly. You won't have to deal with this. If you are in the new FBA or new to FBA program for FBA new selection, which typically, again, that will only be for new sellers on the platform. If you are currently having your products auto replenished via AWD, you don't have to worry about it then either. And then finally, if you're selling less than 20 units every 7 days. So if you have only sold 19 units in the last week, you don't have to worry about this and you will be exempted. So how do you actually know if you aren't exempted how much you're going to be spending on low inventory level fees and what actually applies? Well, that's pretty simple. We can come on over here where Amazon has a lot of numbers for us. So this is their essential sheet to kind of show you exact ways of understanding your historical days of supply, your trailing 30, your trailing 90, and this is supposed to give you an understanding of how you can actually say, am I going to be having to deal with this? Now, for the average person who's not a mathematician of some kind, this is an insane amount of math work to do. So thankfully, we typically don't have to deal with all of this. Instead, they give us a little bit more information. So again, for standard products, you can see they have a secondary chart here. This is for seasonal products, just so everyone understands that. Now, if we come all the way up here, you can see what the actual costs are. So we can see what our historical day supply and each cost for each small standard, large standard, and other large standard above 3 pounds. So if we have 0 to and is greater than, or historical day supply is greater than 14, and essentially we don't have that, it's between 89 cents and $1.11. This can range all the way down to 32 cents, 47. Again, you can see that if we are the closer we are to what our historical days of supply is, the better. So essentially, Amazon wants us to be as close as possible to our historical day of supplies. The more time you can sell the product, the better, because you have a better chance to replenish it beforehand. And that's what Amazon is trying to encourage here, even though it realistically is kind of a sneaky way of going about it. So how do you actually calculate all of this? That gets a little bit more complicated, gets a little bit more into the sheets, but luckily they give us some good examples here. So this example is this product will incur low inventory level because both long-term and short-term historical days of supply are below 28 days. That means essentially your historical day of supply is below 28 days. So you historically will keep more than 28 days of supply at FBA at any given time. So the size tier here is large standard. It weighs 4 pounds, 8 ounces. For the historical days supply, it's 24. So less than that 28 days. Again, if we look up here, we can see between 21 and 28, they would be getting somewhere between 32 cents to 47 cents. However, you can see that they are large standard over that 3 pound threshold. So they are going to be getting charged 47 cents. Again, so if we come on down here, you can see long-term historical days of supply. So that is over 90 days. Is how they calculate that, is 18, whereas short term is 24. The way they do this is based off of, again, that chart where you saw 90 days for a rolling 90 and 30 days from a rolling 30. Now, low inventory level fees are charged at fulfillment. That's something that I think a lot of people don't know, where it's essentially added on similar to a referral fee and does not have to do with, your typical, hey, I'm just getting this every single month with my entire FBA storage costs. No, this happens every single time you send an order out or someone purchases the product, which, yes, seems counterintuitive that you are being charged extra for people buying your product more. Nonetheless, this is how Amazon charges. So the normal fulfillment fee is $4.08 per unit. That's just the standard rate for this product. The low inventory level fee is 36 cents per unit here, rate for 28 days. And then finally, we get $4.44 per unit. Now, this is a little bit more difficult to understand, or a little bit easier, I should say, to understand this exact way of doing it. Now, what if you don't have that problem? So they have a secondary example. This product does not incur low inventory level fees because it is above 28 days. Again, 28 days is the magic number. You want to have above 28 days of inventory at any given time historically. So we have small standard again, 6 plus to 8 ounces. So 6 to 8 ounces. Again, we are falling in to this small standard up to 16 ounces here. So we're looking at 32 cents. If we come on down again, we will see we're at 40 for historical days. Long term is 40, so that's the 90 days, but their short term is 20 days. Now, that's the thing that makes this interesting, is that, again, you have to look at the total for both short and long term, but they will not get a fee here because their historical 40 long term is greater than 28. Then we have a final one here where you can see essentially their long-term supply is below that 28 days, but their historical short-term is above it. So again, it does not matter if it is the long-term or if it is the short-term. As long as your historical days in one of those is greater than that 28, you will not be charged the fee. So how do we actually calculate this? Well, the easiest way is calculating the actual historical days rather than trying to calculate the overall fee for every single product. So for long term here, you can see they have a good example. Your average daily inventory units, so if we come back over here, this is the average here. So we can see our overall on-hand inventory units. So they are taking this every single day for the past 90 days. 243.6. Average daily shipped units, 5.8. So that would be over here where we are looking at our fulfillable quantity. So how much is actually being fulfilled. And then we see long-term historical days supply. We divide these two numbers, so this daily inventory, daily shipped, and that will give us days of inventory. Most people should know a general idea of how much inventory they have at any given time, but this gives a little bit better of an estimate. Now, short-term historical day supply, past 30 days, is essentially the same exact formula. The difference being is that you're only taking the last 30 days rather than the last 90 days. So again, same thing, average daily inventory units, they check your on hand for the last 30 days, and then they check what your average for number of units shipped over the last 30 days, divide those two numbers, and now you have number of days for short-term historical. Now, the best thing to do in this scenario is know that does not matter if you have 90 days, doesn't matter if you have 30 days worth of inventory, you should always have over that 28-day mark. You can have it for both your historical long-term and your historical short-term. The easiest way to counteract the low inventory level fee is by essentially making sure that you are always keeping prepped on top of inventory. And if you do run into snafus, just make sure that you have enough inventory that is coming into the pipeline at some point within the next 90 days so that you can keep that historic on both the 90-day and the 30-day above 28 days. So hopefully this explains a little bit better how low inventory level fees work, and it gives you a better understanding of what Amazon's actually calculating. Again, this isn't something that's a storage fee, it is a fulfillment fee, and it's a sneaky one at that. You could be exempt. I would highly make sure you check to see that your product is small and light, if it's not selling enough units, what the actual exemption reason for your product is so that you can plan ahead of time. So if you have a product that's not selling, 20 units, selling 19 right now, next week it could be selling 21, 22 units, right, per week. So make sure that you always check to understand what your exemption reason is rather than just assuming you're always going to be exempt. On top of that, try and understand a little bit better what your historical 90 and 30-day mark is. That's going to help you a ton to really know what your actual recommended minimum level is. Again, that's what Amazon is actually pushing for with that recommended minimum level, so that you're keeping at least 28 days worth of inventory in at any given time. So try and avoid one of Amazon's sneakier fees this way. Low inventory level fee is one of the things I kind of hate on the platform. I don't think it really is encouraging the way that Amazon tries to make it be. And people have issues with inventory all the time. So hopefully this helps a little bit and you can next time avoid some form of fee and keep your profitability up sky high.